All right, let me record this. Okay, so let's jump in. We're going to talk about the chapter on biodiversity. Going to ask a couple questions because that's just where we happened to leave off with what makes you feel healthy. Thank you. Congrats on my dad moving out or the album. Either one would be cool. He's not moving in with me. Let's just clarify that. Just like many of you were forced perhaps to move back in with your parents last semester, my heart goes out to you. And my dad, you know, he's a great guy, but he's like, I'm not living with you, am I? I'm like, hell no. No, you're not. But on the farm, though, so we'll see if we can get him out here. Anyway, biodiversity. I'm looking at the class. You know, next week we have the Paul Stamets paper. Let me put my, real quick, this might be a technique.
Who's he talking to? I came in late.
I think the plumbing guy.
Yeah, plumber.
All right. Don't know if you heard that or not, but of course, yes. But they're not going to be here for another half an hour, so let's get into this. All right, a couple questions. Sorry about that, everybody. I know that I heard some people, where the hell is that guy? I'm just going to make you stare at a picture of me with tomatoes all day. Oh, there you go. Oh, somebody put a link up for the vinyl. Yeah, and the vinyl, I think it says $50, but that's because we have to spend like 12 or 15 bucks shipping it safely. So if anybody ever got something like that around here and you're in Fort Collins, we deliver all that stuff personally. Anyway, like I said, go listen to it for free if you like it. Otherwise, yeah, no promo for that here. Let me see. All right, let me get back into these questions. So I released a couple questions today. I guess I was just talking about, sorry before I was interrupted. The Stamets paper is due March 5th. That's next week. If I look here on the home, where are we? See if it loads. Our discussion is due by March 4th. The first one is due by February 25th. So I know I keep repeating myself, but you know, like a lot of people missed that week in advance, right? So that's why I'm telling you that now. You can never post too early. You can certainly post too late. So get on top of that if you would. All right, let me head over here. So the question was, do you buy plant or herbal or plant-based medicine on a regular basis? 14 said yes, 35 said no. And that can be like, I take a vitamin C that is a plant-based vitamin C. So that can be actual, you know, plant stuff, or it can be like something that's whatever been extracted into a supplement or something like that as far as that question. But this one here has ticked up quite a bit from the last question. Do you take a vitamin or supplement daily to improve your health? As we talk about biodiversity, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about comes from our natural world and is developed there and or pulled directly from that. So do you take a vitamin or supplement daily to improve your health? Yes, 21. So more people, no, 17. This time it's, you know, weighted quite differently. Not daily, but frequently, 11, and 0 for vitamins and supplements are BS. Usually somebody picks that even if they don't feel that way just because. So without prying into a medical piece, you know, and keeping it like simple, or at least, you know, understandable, what are those supplements? What would that supplement be and for what? I take fish oils for vitamin D, and only, of course, if you're comfortable sharing, you know how this works. Vitamin D, I take fish oils in vitamin D in that form. I take a turkey tail or a Paul Stamets mushroom, and a men's vitamin that's a plant-based man's vitamin. Man's vitamin. So that's like an example of this. Yeah, we've got a lot of people in here that are relying on vitamin supplements, vitamin or supplements to improve their health. So how so?
I take collagen, like, because back in high school I injured my ribs, so that helps with any flare-ups that I get from that injury.
Ribs, did you say?
Yeah, I used to be a martial artist, and then I accidentally separated them from the sternum while I was in judo.
So that's just to help with like inflammation.
Yeah.
Okay, so helping through inflammation and then to reduce pain through that. What else?
I'm a vegetarian, so I take a lot of iron and like B vitamins because I'm not getting any of that from meat. So it just helps me with my like anemia and stuff like that.
All right, so as a supplement for vitamin D and for meat and for iron.
And also I take lysine because there's a couple studies that show that it helps with cold sore flare-ups. So just heads up to anyone out there. It's worked great for me, but yeah, it doesn't work for everybody.
Let me say this right now. Cold sores 20 years ago, I used to get some stuff that I'd put on my lip and it would burn my face off. Lysine, if you think you're getting a cold sore and take a few of those, and then the next day take a few of those, you might not even get that cold sore. You know, like how way before you get the cold sore, you kind of feel it. So Lysine, amazing stuff. Yeah. And you said for iron as well, right? So for anemia. So this is Julie is when she was pregnant, both times she has very low blood pressure, very Minnesotan, very pale, very low iron. And so, and the low blood pressure thing was great because she was actually in labor here at our house for 39 hours, which is that was her in Loveland. That was how long it took. But that's, that's childbirth. That's not an appointment rushing you through it. This thing has to happen. Okay, we were at Red Rocks the night before and didn't get any sleep for widespread panic. That may have also happened that night. But forget that. Backing up, the midwife said, we got to get your iron levels to a level that are safe for you to do a home birth, because midwives will not do a home birth if the iron levels are too low, because you will bleed a lot, right? And that's, a concern. And so we need to make sure that you're, able to do that. Do you know how she told us to do it? She said, yes, you can get vitamin supplements. And I said, okay. And she said, wait a second. How about you just get a cast iron skillet? Did I tell that to the class yet? Never told this story? No? And I was like, a cast iron skillet? Like, sure, yeah, I'll go buy a cast iron skillet, but how is that going to actually raise the iron level in her blood? And she said, well, it will, because as you cook with it, that iron rubs off into your food and you're actually eating it. So my first question as a sociologist was, then what levels in your blood does it raise when you eat off of a Teflon pan, right? There are all these non-stick coating pans with all this space age futuristic, I don't want in my body kind of stuff. And she just shrugged. And I was like, oh, snap. I don't even know. I might have even said, oh, snap. She actually, for both pregnancies, raised the iron level in her blood by cooking with an iron skillet pan. And now we just have that iron skillet. It's not any thinner or noticeably after 10 and 15 years any lighter, but enough to noticeably raise the levels of iron in your blood. Wow. Okay, who else? What is it and why? Oh, so great for you both talking about cold sores, always wanting to destigmatize them. Yeah, it happens. Life happens. And either you have it blow up on your face for 2 weeks, or you take care of it with lysine like that. All right. What other vitamins and supplements, as long as it's non-invasive, are you taking to improve your health?
I take B12. Sorry, Carolita.
No, it's okay. You can go.
Yeah, I just take B12. I don't get it from my food, not because of my diet, but I just can't take it from my food.
Okay, so B12. Who else?
I also take like a mushroom supplement. It's like lion's mane, ashwagandha, and one other one, but it's apparently like really good for like mental focus. Because I'm like a very like distracted person. But I haven't quite isolated it, like taking it by itself. So I really can't say whether it does anything or not. I also drink a lot of coffee. So I would recommend it to everyone, but maybe try it by itself, see if it actually works.
Absolutely. Good. And that's another thing here for a lot of supplements. Somebody wrote glutamine for muscle recovery. Yes. And it's interesting with supplements because Julie, my partner, works at Vitamin Cottage. So the number and type of different people that are in there is as varied and as diverse as you can imagine. Everybody from I've been diagnosed with cancer, can you save me at a vitamin store, to I need a little bit more iron or vitamin C for something. But a lot of different reasons, which I think is very interesting because those places are continuously, doing more and more and more business as people look, I guess, to other options and other successful options, because you really do have to use something for a while and understand yourself before you know if it's going to work, right? A lot of vitamins and supplements, plant-based things, things we find in nature, they're not like a pill. They're not designed to do the same thing that's made in a lab, which is here, 10 minutes later, this headache's going to be gone, whatever that might be. It's a more intuitive process, so you have to feel it out. And whether that's lysine or lion's mane or whatever else, it might not work, for you or whatever that is. What else are people using in here to help improve their health?
I take papaya occasionally just because I have a lot of digestive problems and a lot of foods upset my stomach. So if that ever happens, then I can take papaya and that will knock it out in 20 or 30 minutes.
All right, awesome. So things for digestion and digestive health. Some people are taking probiotics, things like that, trying to find a natural way to restore the health of their gut, candida and things like that, which is, extremely important to your overall health. Good. What else?
Eating well and just exercising.
All right. So vitamin or plant-based, supplement, eating well, like eating actual good food. Sorry. I'll never find another dog like a Catahoula. He actually knows when band practice is, 20 minutes before band practice. He knows the night of the week. He hears me talking about people coming over, and he is prepping for somebody to come to the house. They are, it's remarkably smart, ridiculous. I can't even process it. I know that he knows that somebody's coming over because I've been talking to the boys about it. I walked outside just once. Weird. Anyway. Good. So eating well, absolutely. Before I told that story that I, said that organic food was too expensive, Julie said, get over it. I said, okay. Within 6 months, I'd lost 30 pounds. And back then I wasn't riding a bike. Back then I wasn't doing any exercise. I was just stopping eating foods with corn and highly processed sugars and eating a lot of it. And so I changed my diet. This is before the farm teacher, I lift whiteboard markers, not a real huge workout regimen then, and lost a lot of weight and improved my overall health and the way I feel. And my psoriasis, my skin stuff that had been flared up for so long by just changing my diet. So good contribution, Samuel. Who else? Anybody else before I move on?
I have another sort of cool example that's a little bit different. My partner is transgender and takes yam and a couple other, it's mixed, and it's a supplement that basically helps mimic bioidentical estrogen in cis women. So it's really cool because it helps with more female presentation and also mental wise. So that's just another really cool one that's also helpful for some people.
Bioidentical estrogen.
Yeah.
I just want to go, I'm going to go look that up after class just because I think that's fascinating. Great. Okay. So needless to say, so many of us, and if I'm going to extend that to kombucha, something you would drink, or cannabis, a plant supplement that you would eat or ingest or smoke to improve your health, many people in this class, statistically speaking, are there, right? We are knowing that things that are in our natural world, things that we have access to, things that are intricately related to biodiversity are really essential in that way. So let me do a screen share here. And all right, so I asked that question. Do you take a vitamin supplement to improve your health? That looks disgusting, but whatever. Somebody took a picture of it. All right. So Important to know, biodiversity places limits on infectious disease through biological controls that rein in disease vectors. Boom. Coming at you with something that I think will be directly on the exam. And a piece that's important, right? I mean, think of how important this definition is. Biodiversity places limits on infectious disease through biological controls, okay? And how they do that is by reining in disease vectors. Mosquito, tick carries disease causing microorganisms from one host to another. What takes care of that, right? I guess one of those things would be, oh, I heard that, is it ducks or raccoons can eat just a ridiculous amount of ticks, just with that actually in mind. Ducks also do snails, I know that, invasive species type thing, but biodiversity accounts for that, right? So our ecosystem is biologically diverse, and predation is one of those things that keeps species under control, right? And I mentioned before that, I mean, placing limits on infectious disease, imagine that, right? Like that's something that human beings try to do, but that is something that biodiversity, our natural world, is already doing, right? And it's when that balance is offset. What's happening? What is a great underlying piece, like a huge, not great, but large underlying piece of the situation that we're in right now with COVID? Climate change. You know, we know, scientists know that we have to look at how we're changing our natural world for how new diseases and these biological controls are changed or shut off or shifted to not be able to accomplish what they are supposed to accomplish, right? And trying to replace those services, like I said before, I mean, they're infinite in value to us, so you can't, right? And I get it. We try, right, to reduce this into money figures. Let's just say right now that if we were trying to buy just the biodynamic services that the bees would do, that would make the Green New Deal look like, I don't know, what kind of money do I have here? That would make that look, I don't even have money. I have a pistachio shell. That's an even better example because it's so infinite, right? And you hear people, right, like with this last week, Texas in their own trouble because of themselves, not willing to take responsibility and do that whole business. But one of the things is that they've immediately, the GOP, immediately began dissing on the Green New Deal, which we know isn't even a thing yet. So it's remarkable because these individuals don't have a frame of reference. What they want to compare it to is uncomparable. It's not even in there. But if we were to put a price tag on that, this price tag dwarfs that by hundreds of times. And I don't have that data. I am just absolutely sure of the cost of the services that biodiversity provides for us. So we do put a price tag though. And the reason I compare it to the Green Deal is because we have put a price tag on that. And it's fairly chill. Even if we just compare it to something like our military budget, but we're actually talking not about planes that will sit someplace. And although I think the military performs a really important service, most of the money for that, I think 80 cents on every dollar goes to private military contracting or CEOs that do private military contracting, which is why we're always asking to send troops and body armor and supplies to our troops. It should be taken care of by a budget. Most of it is not put towards that. So we know that those biodiversity services carry us or sustain us beyond human monetary constructs. And yes, beyond money. Jason, that's not possible. Oh, trust me, it is. Here's a paintbrush. Now head to an almond grove somewhere and I'll talk to you in 20 years, right? If you're to try and do it on your own. So here we've got some TED Talk links on biodiversity. I always think these are valuable. There's a couple more here. Sorry about scrolling. Jane Goodall, right, on biodiversity, working with primates and chimpanzees and great apes my entire life. There's one on the bees. So if you want to check out some extra resources that I think are valuable, here they are. And I've just built them into the lecture. All right. So, Jason, if they cost so much money, what are they, these biodiversity dependent services? Well, let's talk about it, right? So ecosystems, products obtained from these ecosystems. Biologically diverse ecosystems, food, okay, that's just, they're right off the bat, fiber, fuel, genetic resources. And like I mentioned before, we're going to talk about it either today or next time, biopiracy. You know, which has been going on forever, and a historical, not a vacuum, but a historical context that we'll talk about. Ornamental resources, fresh water, regulating services, benefiting from our bio. So this is, it's not just things, right? It's not just a tree or a bee or a polar bear, you know? It's all of the eco services, or the diverse regulating services, which are the functionality of it all. So it's not just the things, the food, the fiber, the fuel, the genetic resources, fresh water. It's also what regulates all of that, right? It is what's up for grabs and what we're losing and what is becoming less efficient and less capable through, you know, our actions as well. So air quality maintenance, climate regulation, a biggie, right? Water regulation,
I
erosion.
have a question.
Oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. In ecology and stuff, the regulating services that you have listed is usually like references like ecosystem services. Are those terms synonymous
Yeah,
in your?
I feel like they are.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
There, and maybe now though on the biological, maybe on that side there's like a bit of a distinction, but I think that we're talking about similar things, right? Biological pest control. So again, taking care of itself, right? Birds or whatever that is, not pest control as we think of it. Pollination, storm protection. Cultural services. This is a dimension that we very, very, very rarely think of. We would miss the fresh water and we would miss the food. But again, this is a long list of biodiversity dependent services. So cultural as well, right? Non-material benefits through spiritual enrichment, cognitive development. We have all said in here that is basically the case for us. Reflection, recreation, aesthetic. I just watched a great Ken Burns narrated thing on PBS last night with Julie about our national parks and the formation of our natural parks. And if I can find a link for it, I'll put it up. I highly recommend that you watch it. It's awesome because it's mostly sociology, because it's like, we decided we need parks or else people are going to shit it all up. Sorry, just being real. And since they actually had to figure out, after they said this is a national park, they had to figure out then how to protect them and like what kind of behavior was allowed in them. Because people were going into parks, carving their names into trees, cutting them down, letting animals graze in them. Like, if you've never thought about, I've never thought about that sociological thing till last night, which is, how do we even know how to behave in natural spaces? Oh, that's why I love sociology. Isn't that awesome? And then I stayed up last night writing about it. People are like, boring. But it's really interesting to me. So cultural diversity, spiritual or religious values, knowledge systems. Look, folks, we're talking about entirety of human knowledge systems. They're not all located on computers. They're not all, they're culturally located with individuals, with tribes that we're losing, that are being erased, right? That are being destroyed in many places. So you're not just losing, you know, the language and then part of your culture, you're, you know, the entirety of knowledge systems within human beings up into the last, you know, couple hundred years. Inspiration, aesthetic values, the reason that many of us find benefits and peace or whatever that might be from our natural world. Recreation, again, yes, and cultural heritage. So I think that at least knowing the provisioning services, the regulating services, and the cultural services are all three important dimensions of biodynamic services that I would like you to be aware of. All right, let's look at some fast facts. I think these folks are approaching, but like I said, we'll know because Huckle will freak out. So in 2010, more than 1.7 million species identified. Many, of course, are not discovered. We wait and we understand about ones that are bigger, not so much about ones that are smaller. So the diversity of species diversity estimate, oh, and it was really great. I had said the more diversity we have, the better the functioning we are. I said that earlier in the semester, whether it's a river or a society, and I saw somebody say that just the other day. Was it Dr. Cornell West? I'm not sure. Anyway, the same holds true that I said earlier in the semester, which is important for us to know. This diversity piece is important. If you think it's 10 billion and we remove half of that or a third of that or 20% of that or 10% of that, that makes a big deal, right? If we look at deep sea exploration, I mean, we know that we've got more species than we can imagine that we could even go to, really, right? And of course, shows that are interesting, but glorify this fishing and inappropriate fishing and the way that, you know, our commercial fishing industries are set up. That species loss is happening at a tragic rate. And of course, the more popular those shows have become, the more glorified that behavior gets. So many are, you know, lost before they're even being discovered. We know that we're losing about 27,000 annually, about 74 a day. I feel like this data is 9 or 10 years old. So let's look at the fact that I would think that it's more than that now. And I'm not going to guess, but more. So right now, our extinction rate is 1,000 times the historical background rate, right? So we know we're in the middle of, or part of the 6th greatest mass extinction. You know, we're currently experiencing the greatest mass extinction of all time. I believe it's the 6th one that we can identify. What are the chances that humans can avoid it? Okay.
Is that, Jason, I'm sorry, is that like our extinction rate? Is that mostly because of like climate change and pollution and stuff like that? Or what is that from?
Yes, and yes, and yes. I would have to get out the text and look at where that direct citation comes from. But in as far as where is the loss coming from, yes. We're seeing how fantastic it's been for like family planning to help, we'll look at population places in India, reduce the amount of children, you know, have people live longer. It takes people and then they start to do industry and then it lifts them out of poverty. But there are a lot of places that are manufacturing. There are a lot of places that are now industrial powerhouses and growing industry places like India, like China, like so many places that Africa that weren't before. The increase of production, the increase of natural resources that we're taking out, raw resources, and then what impact that's having. Then also, yeah, how that has impacted and led to climate change, and then what those externalities are. So yeah, for people whose job it is to measure this and take a look at this, you know, I guess the question just becomes, you know, what are the chances that humans can avoid it? And I may have asked that question here, so let me check and see if I did on Zoom. Yep, I think dinos it's labeled under dinos, and there are a couple questions here today that I did release. We already had 46 people out of 99 chime in, but please, that's open until 7 p.m. tonight. What are the chances humans can survive this mass extinction event? 100%. 4 people said that. Yeah. 29 said 50%. No chance at this pace said 13. So, you know, the class is giving ourselves, and it's not a very scientific way to look at it, but we're giving ourselves about a 50-50 chance. I don't like that. As a teacher, as a human being, as a person with children, you know, I really think that, yeah, 50 is not good enough for me. You wouldn't be happy in this class if you got a 50%, right? All right, so John Oliver just got a great episode. Intensification of animal farming and reducing biodiversity is a nightmare, precursor for the spread of zoonotic disease. Love John Oliver for sure. Let me head back here and screen share this again. I'm happy we're getting a little bit more time than I thought we would get before these folks showed up. Yeah, reducing gluten. I also saw that comment helps with psoriasis as well. All right, so threats to biodiversity. I'm not going to take too much time with this, but why are we losing so much biodiversity? Why are we in this extinction? There's your page, right? There's your page for that. Pollution, climate change, severe weather, geological events, invasive problematic species and genes, biological resource use, human intrusions, disturbance, transportation. I mean, you know, there it is. And I won't spend too much time with this to say, except to say that I'm never really alarmist, and I never teach my classes in an alarmist way. It's important to know when somebody says, this is happening, da 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 da, or Roundup is responsible for this many gallons of cancer, this or that, that we are understanding that that's not the first apple you eat that's non-organic. It is the culmination of a culture of this, right? It's commercial development on top of mining, on top of poisoning your water, on top of pollution, on top of invasive species. See what I'm saying? And so we can never, and I would never want to simplify that to sort of extrapolate it down to one thing, but that is oftentimes the oversimplification. So we have to know that it's not just Jason, just because I'm not eating organic doesn't mean it's that way. And there we go. What? I mean, he is literally, that dog is literally within a minute of what that person told me. Do you know how bizarre that is? Ah, yeah, 104. It's supposed to be 105. That is, he's anticipating it. Is it somebody in this class or my 100 that has a Catahoula? Oh, I can't remember. I'm definitely, he's my old dog. So when Huckle passes, boy, gonna need another one of, I need another dog
right
with,
there.
what? Oh yeah, I need
That's the
another,
Catahoula right there.
I need another dog with
It's like
ES,
sleeping
like Catahoula.
hippo.
All right. Okay, well, they're not here yet. So let's just say that there are a lot of threats to biodiversity. And what I'm trying to say is it's never just one, right? It is the culmination of that leads to that. And we could look at any sort of piece for that. All right. So biodiversity, the difference between biodiversity, quotes. We're looking at different things here. This is not necessarily my expertise. And I'm sure we have a few of those people in this class. When we talk about species richness, we're talking about biodiversity, right? Genetic richness, we're looking at that within and across species. And ecological diversity, we're looking at ecosystem services and habitat. Because a lot of times people are like, oh, we have a species problem, but I think that that's inherently ambiguous. And so we've got a couple things here. I think they're important to be able to distinguish between them. Not necessarily, like I said, the focus of this chapter, but biological species concept, when we look at property of productive isolation, ecological species concept, speciation, I'm having trouble today, through ecological selection, and phylogenetic species concept, the property of common descent. I'm not going to spend too much time on these things. However, it is a bit of a segue as we look into zoos and how we're preserving species. Oh, and what's the news on some of this? Is it the black-footed ferret? Was that right? Was that what I heard? Somebody, I see you shaking your head. Who knows about that? We've had a couple animals that were just cloned, right? Successfully, and are being raised that were either extinct or almost extinct. It's definitely the black-footed ferret. Was there another one? Well, I can't remember right now. You have to check that out. But now we're into a whole other territory, right? When we look at extinction, black-footed ferret was here in Fort Collins. Oh, I didn't know that. Maybe that's why I heard about that. But yeah, what happens when we can look at saving a species, not just through, breeding programs, but actually through cloning and things like that? Oh, they cloned a sheep. I mean, I think that's when I was in college, like my first year in college or something like that. I used to say they cloned a fish or whatever, it was simple, but they told us about the whatever, right? I think that they are capable way past that, right? So if they did the sheep 20 years ago, they have a much greater, grasp on that now. I'm not sure what the possibility is of cloning a mammoth or something like that. I'm sure it's possible, but all of a sudden we've just like opened up this biodiversity, what things have left the chain, what things are put back into the chain. But as we look at, and soon we'll look at, the zoo and the ex situ and in situ piece and conservation and things like that, probably Thursday. But we'll look at what that means for that. So know this definition: biodiversity hotspot, a biogeographic region with a significant reservoir of biodiversity that is under threat from humans. These areas are becoming more and more, they're becoming larger. And the actual areas in many of these places for that biodiversity to be in are becoming smaller. If we look at South Central America in places where deforestation is taking place at great paces. We're not only talking about the, biodiversity itself, but we include, of course, habitat and things like that. Some type of rhino was recovered from extinction too. A rhino recovered, wow. All right. The dogs are going crazy. I can hear at least Boba and Huckle out there. So I think I better attend to this. Sorry that I have to cut class just a little bit early today. I will post this video and we will continue Thursday with that. You've got a discussion coming up. Like I said, it never is a problem when you post too early. It's only a problem you post too late. So get on top of that discussion so that Friday you don't wake up and you're like, oh, Downing told me not to miss that. And I did. All right. Any questions? I want to check out, have we cloned a rhino? Did we recover a rhino from extinction? That's like my favorite mammal, actually, to tell you the truth. And my dad's favorite mammal, strange enough. Hippos too. Cannot get enough of hippos eating pumpkins on the internet. If you've not seen that, there's my totally useless but totally great thing for you to do today. Watch a hippo mom and her baby eat pumpkins. It's fantastic. All right, we'll be still heading into biodiversity. I will finish biodiversity on Thursday, and we will head to the next chapter, which I believe is water. So if you are done with the chapter on biodiversity, if you have read chapter 4, you can start into chapter 5, or you can wait on that. Remember, even though it's not due till next week, turning in a really solid solution paper is important. Yeah, someone in animal sciences did a study on hippo sweat. I think that's just where we're going to leave it today. I'm just a love machine. All right. Take care. Be safe. Be good people. And do good things. Why do I think of that song? Is that in like, what's the one with King Julian? Is Wanda the voice of a hippo? And then like they play that song? Why all of a sudden did I think of that song? Okay, I see one person shake their head. Great.
What song?
What'd you say?
What song? What's the name of it?
I was thinking of that 70s one, Love Machine. I don't even know what it's called. You're just a love machine. I have no idea. Anyway, be good people, do good things. Yeah. Oh, it could be that one too. All right. Well, anyway, everybody, you go out there and you be good people, do good things, mask up, be safe, reach out. Peace. Thanks, everybody. And sorry for having this be a little bit short today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.